Hey, you guys, it's Amy White here, and I decided to post a video today because I've been doing some meditation and some channeling of the greater consciousness around the subject of grief. And I was really encouraged through my channeling to share this information in a more public forum. Usually, what I do when I do my own personal channeling is I will write the channel down or I'll record it just for my own use. But as I was going through the channeling today, um, the greater consciousness had a lot of things to say about grief. And the first thing that they have to say is that right now, in this time and space, there are so many of us going through really difficult, painful experiences. And part of that, they're saying, is because we are at a time where the old way of being no longer serves us. And yeah, that can sound a little woo woo and a little bit, a little bit generic, but what they really want to communicate is the fact that, first of all, you're not alone in experiencing the grief that you're experiencing. And because of situations, both personal situations and global situations, we are all walking around experiencing grief in ways that we haven't really experienced before. And so we might not even be putting a name to what this emotion is because especially if it's not something that's happening directly to us in our in our personal or private lives, it's we're being influenced by what's happening uh, across the board. And not only that, we're being influenced energetically by what's happening, what's been going on in the world. And that's a real challenge for a lot of us, and me included. Part of the exploration into this subject of grief really came from this standpoint of really not feeling my true self and not feeling 100% and really unsure why. I mean, if you guys have been following me on social for a while, you know I've had some pretty big heartbreaks over the last couple of years, and even earlier, this year, late last year, that I've been working to heal from. But there's something that's even deeper than that that's coming up, and I think that's really the 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 key here for all of us is to start to put a name to when we're just not feeling really great, when there's this underlying feeling of unsettled and we aren't sure what it is, but we know that there's not something that's happening particularly direct in our lives that's causing it. We can start to explore what that grief might be. And why is it important? It's super important because when we can name the feeling, when we can call it out into the light, it can heal. And there's a lot of people that believe that if we call a feeling into the light, we're creating more of the same, or that if we call it into the light, it's going to crack us open more. But the truth is that if we are experiencing grief, we're already cracked open. That core of ours has been already shaken up. And so we're not protecting ourselves by not claiming what it is. We're actually creating more harm, and we're prolonging the length of time it's going to take us to move through grief. So that was a really big message that came through from the greater consciousness today. The other piece of this is that we need to stop putting a timeline on how long it takes for us to move through grief. We are so conditioned societally by the fact that, yep, you felt it, it happened, it was months ago, you're better off without this situation, and yet others want us to just get over it, right? They want us to get beyond it. We don't have to. I really feel strongly that we need to allow grief to show up in any way that it does. And one of the beautiful lessons that I've been learning in my own practice is that it doesn't have to be only one thing. So we can be in our grief and holding space for magic and movement and excitement and joy. We can hold both that hard, heavy feeling and that lighter, more energetic feeling in the same space. They don't have to be one or the other. We don't have to only be in grief, and we don't have to pretend that we're only in joy or we're only in excitement if we're not fully feeling that emotion at the time. So here's some permission. The greater consciousness wants to give you permission to be with where you are right now, with the emotions that you are experiencing right now. If you don't know if you're experiencing grief, it's a good time to start to do a little bit of excavation. You know you're not feeling as high vibrational as you would like to. What's going on below the surface? What are some things that you can identify that are causing you anxiety or worry or fear? Or where has your heart been broken? I mean, there's so much happening in the world today. So many things I know personally are breaking my heart, whether it's the environment or animals or, the way that people are being treated, both in this country, in the U.S., and, uh, and all over the world. It's those injustices that I see and I read in the headlines that break my heart, and they break my heart over and over and over again. And if we allow ourselves to become desensitized to what's happening in the world and what's happening for ourselves in our own experience, we are only prolonging the grief cycle, because at some point we will experience it. And at some point it will come up for us, and we're going to have to look at that emotion and decide how and when we're going to address it. So don't shut down to protect yourself. Be open to and start to call by name those things that are really creating grief in your experience. And then you can start to work through them. You can journal, you can meditate, you can pray, you can talk to a friend, you can seek, a therapist or a professional. Whatever you need to do to love yourself through the grief is going to make a huge difference for you as you're walking down this part of your path. But I just want you to know that you're not alone, that there are so many of us that are experiencing really deep levels of grief right now. And it's okay. It's okay for you to be experiencing it. It's okay for me to be experiencing it. And just knowing that we're not this island all by ourselves experiencing grief or unnamed emotions can actually give us a little bit of a stronger foundation to move forward. It's a courageous act to love yourself. It's a brave act to want to explore where you are right now. What are all of the elements to your current vibration, both the heavier, slower vibrating elements and the higher frequency elements together? It really is an act of self-love to start to do this exploration. So I'm here with you doing the same kind of work. And if you have any questions or if you need some support along the way, let me know. I'll put my contact information in the comments. Take care, you guys. Big, huge love.